Woo! Hi guys! Happy Wednesday?
Is it Wednesday already?
It is?
I guess it is.
I think so. I think it's Wednesday,
Oh, wow,
and
from
it's 3
Mexico.
o'clock. Yeah, what's up? If you're just tuning in to my channel, my name is Claire, and this is Clareminded, and today I'm with my friend Jeff Craigen, aka the Mind Body Healer. And we used to have some really exciting stuff for you guys, so thanks for tuning in. Yes, we're going to go over some really rad talk about like changing the unconscious through your belief system. He has an epic story that I think should be shared. So this is kind of like a soul-minded episode, I guess you could say. I'm still working on the title, so if you have any suggestions, please let me know. But during my travels, I come across like a ton of interesting people and having like totally different paths, and it's really cool to connect with people in that way and hear their story. And I think Jeff has a story that needs to be shared, so I wanted to present it and give him a platform to hopefully spread all of his knowledge and love. So welcome!
Thank you. Thanks
Yes.
for having me. Hey, I'm Jeff, by the way. First of all, I just want to say thank you for taking the time. And, I mean, she's an expert in Ayurvedic medicine, yoga, Reiki. So if you haven't checked out her website, go check it out. Clareminded.com.
YouTube too.
And YouTube. She's got
Yeah.
a YouTube channel, which is awesome. And, yeah, the work that you're doing with people. I mean, all these different modalities that we're sharing with you guys today, they're all encompassed in so many aspects of mind-body healing, as well as Ayurvedic and yoga and Reiki.
Totally.
Yeah, so thanks for taking the time.
Yeah.
Pleasure with me being with you here.
It is
sharing
such a
this
pleasure.
opportunity.
Cool.
Cool. So I guess I'll go into my story.
Yeah, so Jeff is going to kind of give us a rundown of his whole story, and it dates back many years and stuff, too.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll start with the beginning. 7 years ago now, I was in the gym, and I was doing a deadlift. And I did a deadlift, and 2 days after the deadlift, all of a sudden, I got this, like, scorching back pain, ripping pain down my legs. It just got worse and worse. And so instantly I was like, oh, I must have heard it in the gym. Now this pain started to get worse and worse and worse over the time. And I remember I was at my house one time, and my brother came in to greet me, and I stood up and my whole body just collapsed on the floor. And so I was pretty shocked, right? Because I'm a healthy young guy. I've been sporty and athletic my whole life. And then this happened.
You were a personal trainer at the time,
Personal
right?
trainer at the time, yeah. I've been a personal trainer for 8 years, so I always had the notion that, you know, our body is able to heal itself. So I was under the impression that I, you know, really injured myself. So anyway, I rushed off to the emergency hospital because they thought I had like cancer or a tumor or something going on. Turns out there was nothing, but they referred me to a rheumatologist. They referred me to the rheumatologist, and the rheumatologist took x-rays and blood tests. And
What is a rheumatologist?
rheumatologist is basically, I guess it's like a glorified doctor where they're more, they more go into the blood results of what's going on in your body.
Okay.
I don't know specifically exactly what you would call them, I guess, but they're more of a higher end kind of doctor, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Anyway, so they referred me to them because that's what they deal with, a lot of autoimmune issues and treatments of autoimmune issues. So they did a blood test, and they found out that I had an autoimmune disease called ankylosing spondylitis. And if you guys don't know what that is, apparently it's a genetic autoimmune disease. And if you have the disease, there's a gene called HLA-V27. If you have the gene, you have the symptoms that accompany the gene. So they told me that I had this gene, and that was the result of my pain. They told me that I needed to go on all these medications and biologics, I think biologics, and that I had to do those for the rest of my life. They also told me that my spine was going to fuse and I wouldn't walk the same again. So
And how old were you at the time?
I was 23 or 24 at the time. 23, 23.
Like, being told that is like crippling in itself. Like, could you imagine? Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty devastating, and I remember getting that news and just feeling the weight on my shoulders. And for some reason, I didn't really take what he was saying as my truth. I just said, no, I'm going to figure this out. This can't be the case. I've been athletic and fit, and this can't just happen randomly. So I remember saying to him, I said, you know, I'm going to not take these drugs that you're recommending. I'm not going to get surgery, like you told me to get surgery. And I'm going to figure this out. When I do, I'm going to bring it back to you so you can help clients with it. And then he said to me, even if you do figure it out, I can't implement it because it's not part of our protocol. And so when I heard that, I was like, okay, he's not looking to cure this, he's looking to treat it. So I just totally kind of took my health into my own hands after that, and I tried everything you can imagine. I tried ayahuasca, I tried acupuncture, I tried ozone injection therapy, physio, diet, paleo, pescatarian, vegan, vegetarian, keto, every single thing you could possibly imagine, and the pain just got worse and worse and worse. And then that's when there was an experience I had. Basically, I don't say this to convince anyone or to sway anyone in my direction, but I had an experience where I was at the lowest of my low, and I went upstairs and I was going to end my life that day. And I went upstairs and I, for whatever reason, cried out to God, or a God, or whatever you want to call it, universe. And I had an experience where like a lightning bolt, like energy, just like struck my body, and it just shimmered through my whole body. And I'm not religious or anything, and I look up in the corner, and Jesus is sitting there and watching me, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then a week later, my pain went away, and it was the weirdest thing. During that time, I had like almost like a cosmic download, I guess you could say, and it just, I was taught how to help people with these certain things that are going on in their body. And so now that's what I've dedicated my life to, is helping people with this stuff. And what it has to do with is called mind-body medicine. And what mind-body medicine is simply understanding how our unconscious repressed emotions can trigger physical symptoms unconsciously and continue them in the body. So what happens is if you get a diagnosis, that diagnosis creates a new belief system that in turn keeps that process going by reaffirming it, by speaking it, by thinking it, and it just keeps going and going and going. And I've helped people around the world now, and I've coached people who are psychotherapists, and within weeks their symptoms are gone. So it became quite apparent that this information needs to get out. So
yeah, it's almost like like a snowball effect, really. I mean, it works for like positive or negative. If you're choosing to focus in on a thing and you repeat it, then it keeps going and getting bigger and getting bigger, and kind of ultimately will lead to your new truth of whatever that is.
Absolutely.
What are some of the things that you did to heal yourself?
Yeah, so what I did was I had to realize, first of all, what those unconscious emotions were in those programs. So one of the things that I teach people, and this is something that can help you immensely if you're dealing with autoimmune diseases or physical symptoms in your body right now, is how our belief systems take effect. And we need 4 things in order to do that. We need 1, a power of authority, such as a doctor or someone to tell you that you have something. 2, we need a heightened emotion such as fear, or a relaxed sensation such as, oh, I'm going to the doctor and I can get answers now. So you kind of lean back and your subconscious is able to take new information on quite easily. And then 3, we need a mental image or an imaginary image of, say, an X-ray, an MRI, a blood test, something along those lines that kind of, you can go on Google and you see an image, something like that triggers it. And then 4, you need repetition. So understanding those 4 things, I was able to go, okay, if that's how this happened, well then it makes sense that if I change the way I react to the symptom, then I can change my belief system around it, and I can also change my mental imaging around it and my emotions and the reactions to the symptom. So once I understood the process, then I understood that that process can be done. And it was the way that the healing took place was understanding that if I kept thinking of it on a physical level, I would keep getting physical symptoms instead of addressing it from a psychological, emotional standpoint and going, okay, I have a physical sensation of pain, symptom, and starting to ask myself, what am I not allowing myself to feel right now? Or what emotions could be present that I'm unaware of that are causing the physical symptom? So starting to just address it in that sense and turn it around, that's when I started to notice healing all around my body. And I don't know if I told you, but I was allergic to like 90 foods.
Yeah.
Like it got really bad. I was told by the naturopaths, you're allergic to all these foods, you got to cut them out. You know, it just got one thing. I had arthritis in my spine, osteoporosis in my feet. I had a herniated disc verified in my L4, L5 in my spine. I had sciatic pain.
And this is all stuff doctors told you?
All stuff doctors told me, yeah. So, you know, people listening out there are watching with herniations and disc bulges and you know, kyphosis and scoliosis and all these different things, be very cautious what doctors tell you, because a lot of it is based on guesswork. Not to say that doctors are bad or anything, it's just when it comes to treatment, our medical system is set up to keep you in treatment, not to find a cure.
So true. So, how long did this take you all from like when you first got like diagnosed, you fell, and to really like the journey into healing yourself in a way?
Yeah, for sure. It took about a year to full. So when I remember reaching out to this one guy, and he was on YouTube, and he was trying to heal himself through diet and through apple cider vinegar and all these different things. And then he started to become aware of mind-body medicine, and I started to kind of dive into it a bit more, what he was doing. And then this one guy reached out and said, "Hey, I think I know what could be going on with you." And he told me that these symptoms can originate in the brain, and I told him to screw off. I was like, yeah, I know my body, and I know that this isn't all made up in my head. But 4 years down the road, I look back and I'm like, oh, I should have listened to him, because, you know, it's what I want to get across to people is that it's a universal thing to have psychosomatic symptoms. This is something that happens in every single person. This isn't something new. It's the same thing as if you go watch a scary movie, your body reacts to it. If you see a bear, your body reacts to it. You can imagine certain things, and your body will physically react to those symptoms. It's the same thing. So it was definitely a journey, but I'd say about a year in is when I fully started to realize what was going on at a deeper level. I kind of had glimpses of it in the first kind of week that I had my experience, and then just to really start to take on that new belief that this is what's happening.
I find it, I mean, like, for me, as well as most people, like, taking on these new beliefs, like, they sound, like, easier maybe than, like, actually doing it, because when you take on a new belief, that means you have to let go of an old one.
Yeah.
And we get really attached to the things not only we believe, but because we do them, we, like, really believe that, like, that is the only way. So it's, like, breaking down those barriers. You have to, like, really open yourself up and become vulnerable, which is a really hard thing to do.
Yeah.
So,
it's definitely what you just said is so key. Stripping away what you think you know about what you've been told you think what's going on in your body, and just releasing control and letting those things go. Because what will happen is those programs will run over and over and over. And it's the same way that you know how to tie your shoes. At first you had to consciously loop, swoop, and then pull. Right?
I was a bunny ears.
Yeah, you're a bunny ear. Yeah. So you had to make the bunny ears first, right? You had to hop around, and then you had to pull. But eventually, you just tie your shoes, and you could talk to me while you tie your shoes. It becomes just an unconscious program, right? Or the same way we know how to drive a car and have a conversation. We know where we're going, and my conscious mind can have a conversation, but I can be driving and turning here and going somewhere else, right?
It was funny, like recently before I met you is when I started listening to Bruce Lipton a lot, who's like mastermind in changing belief patterns. And one of the things he says is that between like from when you're like just first born to when you're 7 years old, that's when you intake like the majority of your beliefs. So it's, you know, your environment, your parents, your siblings, your community, everything you absorb in those 7 years kind of really prime you for what you actually become.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And like sometimes, as an adult, we do things that maybe we don't really necessarily agree or know why we do it, but because it's so ingrained in us, we don't really know how to change it.
Yeah.
So like how can we start opening ourselves up? Or like, can you share like the work you do and like what you share with other people and how you help them?
Yeah. So yeah, Bruce Lipton's amazing. Just to touch on that a little bit is like the first 7 years we get programs of who we think we are based on our authority figures, our environment, and things that we observe or certain influences in our life. And then what happens is later on down the road, those personality traits, they generate unconscious rage, they generate unconscious emotions, and then eventually that leads to a symptom if it overflows. And then we blanket that and go, oh, that symptom was a result of this herniation, when really it's a result back to the past programming that we've never dealt with or we've never released. And so we have our conscious mind, our unconscious mind, and our subconscious mind. And so when the work that I do is we start to bring up the unconscious to the conscious mind to integrate into our adult experience. And then once we bring that up, we start to repetitively change how we think and react about the symptom in the body. And so once that new belief takes effect, that this is no longer a physical symptom that is the cause, but it's a psychological unconscious emotion that causes the physical symptom. And I want to make this quite clear for people out there, is that the symptom is real. The disease is very real. It's not that you've made this thing up and it's imaginary. It's a very real thing in your body and it's affecting your body. But it's how we acknowledge and address that it's a psychological causing a physical instead of treating a physical that disregards the emotions. So once we continuously acknowledge that it's an unconscious emotion that's causing the physical, that in itself is a win. Each time we do that, that creates a new program and it sidetracks the brain and diverts the attention into what's really happening in the body. And you do that enough times, repetition, emotion, unconscious belief happens, boom. Once you do that, those neural synapses in the brain, they connect and you no longer have a physical symptom. It just dissipates.
Pretty gnarly. Do you have to test it a little bit? Like,
in what sense do you mean?
So like for me, like I was diagnosed with like celiac randomly. I went in for like a vitamin and mineral test with my doctor, and I was looking for like is my D3 low or is it high? And he came back. He's like, "Oh, you have celiac." I was like, "What?" Like, and I was like, "Huh?" I was like, "I guess my tummy does hurt after I eat bread," and like that was almost like the first programming.
Yes.
But so like since then, I've like steered away from eating bread.
Right.
But eventually, changing these beliefs, like I'm gonna have to start testing eating bread, right?
Yeah. So I was talking about this with the client the other day. Is like when you eat the bread, it's like a battleground. It's like, okay, is my mind going to tell my body that this is a physical symptom, or is this happening from an unconscious conditioning that I've conditioned myself to the bread? You know, if you follow me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a battleground there because you have to be on the right side.
Yeah.
You're like mentally.
Totally.
To embark on that.
For my experience, when I was allergic to like 90 foods, I remember I just cut out all food for 2 weeks, and I was like, okay, if it's the food, then I'm gonna figure this out. And I cut out all foods, and I still had pain, and I was like, well, that's interesting, because every time I would have like dairy or bread, or it got to the point where I'd have spinach, and I would get like scorching back pain and drop on my knees. Yeah. And, yeah. And then once I just released all the notion that this is the cause and that new belief took form, I mean, I'm having dairy yesterday, I'm doing backflips off sand dunes, like, it's the real thing, and what I really want people to get across is that once you take complete ownership of your health and you take complete priority in what you choose to believe that it's going to serve you, that's when your body will follow suit.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you have something that you can kind of like share a giveaway of like how people can, who are curious about changing your belief patterns, something that we can start to incorporate maybe into our lives, or a belief that we want to change?
Absolutely. So, first of all, we have to know what our beliefs are. And there's two things that I highly recommend. One is meditation. Meditation is basically just the tool of observing your breath so that you can see your thought patterns. Once you see your thought patterns, then you can change the program. And you'll notice that a lot of the times if you have an autoimmune disease, or you have chronic pain, or you have IBS, or you have these different symptoms, is that you'll find yourself going into your pain story. It's like the story that you tell yourself about yourself that you believe to be true. So someone will ask you, like, how's your autoimmune, right? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, my back, like it's and you start to go into it over and over and over again. And when you go into it, that creates that repetition. So it's about observing also when you go into your pain story, and that observation comes through meditation. And there's also a ton of scientific evidence behind meditation that it actually shrinks the amygdala, which lowers those pain center receptors in your brain and allows you to actually notice emotions and regulate them before they come up, and decide to react how you've always reacted, or change your reaction. It's a vicious cycle because it becomes the symptom, fear, and then the symptom. Symptom, fear, and the symptom. It just keeps going. So once you change that reaction to the symptom, you start to change the program. Yeah. So a simple tool is meditation, 30 minutes a day. You can do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night, 10 minutes in the evening. And it's just simply sitting, observing your breath. And when your thoughts wander off, and they'll go like, what do you think you are, like Buddha? Like, what are you doing? You can't meditate. Then just bring that back to your breath gently and just breathe. And then wander off again. And what you're doing is you're training your brain and your body to sit still and breathe through the chaos, like we do in life. Things happen, we can choose to react. It's like a wave, right? Wave comes in. It's still the ocean, but it's a wave. We have a choice to catch that wave, or wait for the next wave, or just sit with them in the ocean.
Nice surfer analogy. Yeah. Gotta wait for the wave.
Just gotta wait for the wave,
Yeah,
man.
man, you'll catch the next one.
Yeah. It's like, oh, that was a good wave, bro.
There's some really good waves down here in Puerto Escondido. On which level does change take place when you talk about change in the system?
On which level?
Yes. On which level does change take place when you talk about change in the system? Hi, Kathy.
So when you say, are you talking about in what part of the brain, like conscious, unconscious, or subconscious?
Kathy, can you clarify, please? On which level does change take place when you talk about change in the system?
I think that's kind of what you mean.
I think so. It looks like she is going to type something real quick.
Cool.
She's on the other side of the world. Yes, about the part of the brain.
Right.
Yeah.
So the change will take place in your subconscious mind. Once that becomes a new belief in your subconscious, so consciously doing it over and over and over and catching it, once you continuously do that enough times, that repetition creates a new program, and once that takes root in the subconscious mind, that's when change takes place. So it's about continuing and repetition and acknowledging it each time it comes up. So, like I was saying, each time that the symptom is there, it's there to get your attention to address your unconscious emotion. And a lot of people say, like, well, I'm not angry. And it's like, well, yes, you don't know that. We all generate unconscious emotions, right? So these things can happen early on with different personality traits. Almost every single person I've talked to is a perfectionist, a people pleaser, or a do-gooder, or they have certain tendencies that cause unconscious rage to generate.
Yeah. Well, so like building off that, we had a session a few days ago on Monday, and one of the big things that came up for me was worry. And it all stemmed from my gut, which is like aligned with the whole celiac thing, because that's where I feel the most pain whenever I do eat bread, because I like to test it, to be honest. I like to test my boundaries. But worry was the big thing that like stemmed from everything we talked about. And I noticed the next day, it was so funny because I made this connection. So in about a week and a half, I'm hosting my first workshop. It's called Sensoria. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I'm co-leading it with my friend Hillary, but it's all about like a sensory immersion kind of. And I've had some worry about it, but I didn't realize that it was worry. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed with I've taken a lot of things on this month. And I was like, I had the list of like things that I wanted to like do for it, but I would just keep looking at the list without like doing anything. I'm like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed. And then after we had the session, I was like, oh, I worry like a lot, like stupid a lot, like almost like everything. There's like a seed of like worry. And then the next day after we had that session, I was like thinking about the workshop. I was like, oh, I gotta go print the flyers out so I can like post them out, all over the beach, everyone can see. And there was like something holding me back. I was like, it was the stem. I was like, oh, why don't I want to go print these flyers out right now? Like it's across town, but like I want to host this. I'm like, oh, am I scared of like, am I worried that if I hang them up and like no one comes, like, and I was trying to link it back, but I made that connection. I was like, holy damn, that was worry.
Yeah, right.
And it was really cool just in the fact that I noticed it. When before it's just like, oh, it's so overwhelmed.
Yeah. And that's what we were talking about is that change takes place because we brought those unconscious thoughts to the conscious. So now you're aware of them, right? And so now you can start to see the patterns, and then you can change it. And, there's a ton of different ancient texts out there. One in particular says, will worrying add 1 second to your life? And we always...
Add 1 second?
Will worrying add 1 second to your life?
Oh, okay.
And we oftentimes think, like, as humans, like, if we worry or we're anxious about something, it's going to make it change. But it actually makes it worse because our brain doesn't know the difference. Our brain just reacts to what we tell it over and over again.
It's tough, too, because it's such, like, a lineage type of thing. When I identified that worry, I could link it back in my family. And, like, the first woman that popped up was one of my grandmothers, and she was just a worrier.
Yeah.
Like, everything. Like, oh, Claire, like, I don't like you going there. But she would just constantly be telling herself that she was worried over things.
Yeah.
And I think, that trickles down.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of, like, I didn't even know I was a worrier, even though I saw people I was around being worriers. I'm like, I don't worry.
Yeah. Because that's what Bruce Lipton talks about.
Yeah.
When you're a young age, you just observe it.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, oh, must be something I should do.
Right.
Yeah. Because as a kid, you just take it on, right?
Mm-hmm. Just absorb.
So like this type of work, becomes more about than healing autoimmune or pain. It becomes literally ending the bloodline of what you've been taught.
Yeah. It's a bold thing to like try and take on too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you're gonna make that choice. Like, is it gonna stop here? Or is it gonna continue?
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, and that's just every single human out there. We all have those different unconscious emotions that come up. Right?
Yeah. It was really cool to experience. And so, what do you offer? What kind of?
So if you do want to do sessions, I do one-on-one sessions. You can go to my website at www.mindbodyhealer.com. That's www.mindbodyhealer.com. And you can check out services there. I have some blogs that kind of shed more light on this type of thing. And there's testimonials on there from people who have healed already. So you can kind of get more insight into it. And
he's got a YouTube channel too under...
it's under...
Jeff
D. Craigen.
Yeah. He's got his full story on there if you want to check out more specifics on that, and then tons of other testimonials and a lot of exciting projects in the works too.
Yeah, so it's going to be good. I wanted to just say one thing too is a lot of times, with people going through like autoimmune disease is there anybody going in through autoimmune or chronic pain out there that is tuning in right now?
Or do we have any questions as well?
Or any questions? Yeah.
Nothing instantly.
Nothing yet?
No.
Okay, no worries. Anyway, what I was going to say is a lot of times it could be for family members or anybody. There's so many people out there going through this type of stuff. But a lot of the times, people who are in chronic pain or have these symptoms, it becomes a very quick victim mentality that this is happening to me instead of it's happening for me. And it's there for a reason because it's distracting you from those unpleasant emotions. So when you have a symptom or certain things come up, just know that it's happening for you. A lot of times it becomes like this program that, oh, this thing's attacking me instead of this thing's actually happening for me. That's one thing I would share with you guys that helped me immensely and start to just kind of shift that dynamic of, oh, this is actually here to serve me.
Yeah, all about changing that perspective.
Yeah. For sure.
So rad.
So talk a little more about your experience. So when you touched on those certain things, you felt them directly in your gut, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was like the place that we kind of like identified very highly in my session.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just that one example, but like that night too, I wanted to challenge myself and eat a little bread.
Yeah.
And like my reaction usually isn't something where I need to be rushed to the hospital by any means. I get like intense bloating and like it's just so uncomfortable. I feel heavy. I feel like stuff's not going right.
Yeah.
And so I went to Spirulina and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get like a veggie burger. And I was trying to stay on the positive side of that like football field almost, like you know, and be in my mind like I'm totally fine. Like I kind of reiterate myself. I'm like, this is just like a thought. This is an emotion. Like this is not me. I was separating myself the entire time.
Yeah.
I was using my Ayurvedic eating rules very consciously, like chewing it because I mean, in Ayurveda it's all about how you eat the food, not necessarily what you're eating. And I had about like half the burger, which had like a normal bun on it, and there was some a little after effect, but not to a point where it normally has been before. I focused heavily on like my diaphragmatic breathing, and but it's just that connection of like feeling it in something in your gut because that's what was identified for me, and then me making that realization like that is not me. Like this is like a body sensation right now. Like this is coming from an emotion. This is coming from like a past experience. Like this is not me. And I've been trying. I mean, it's only been 2 days, but I feel like a little floating, having to be able to make that connection.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the first step is to challenge it.
Yeah.
Right? To challenge what it's telling you.
It's kind of scary to do that though.
It can be, yeah. So
you have to,
and that's the thing is I was asking someone about this the other day. Like before you had any symptoms, did you second guess what you ate? Right? Did you pinpoint things or look like, oh, I can't have that because it's going to do this, right? So that in itself creates tension and fear in the body, and that fear triggers your autonomic nervous system to react. And what happens is it actually deprives oxygen and blood from your digestive system that allows you not able to digest that food properly. So the reaction to it or the thought around it is what needs to change, and it almost has to get to the point where you don't even think about it. Right. It just comes.
You're receiving it because it's food, and that's what we're doing. There was one thing I wanted to note about the celiac thing. I had the thought the other day. So, like as a young teenager or girl, a lot of women are pressured to look a certain way and like to carry a thinner frame, and not that I like personally felt like I had that disconnect with bread when I was younger, but I think that it was like slightly there in the sense. So it's like I didn't want to eat it as much because of the thought that like, oh, bread has so many carbs. Right. And then so like I wouldn't eat it as much. Yeah. And then you separate yourself, like you were saying, that barrier, you create this like internal fear. Yeah. I wonder if it, like, I don't think that was the only thing, but I had that thought, like maybe that's something that also kind of stemmed from.
Absolutely, yeah, an early relationship with that
Yeah.
food, right? That like some people, they're drilled in like I as a personal trainer, I remember just like researching these things, and I got to the notion of like dairy's bad, red bad, everything, like all this stuff's so bad for you, right? And so you can develop those relationships with food, but it became quite apparent that once you change the relationship with food, that your body follows suit. As far as the bread goes, yeah, what you were saying is like that notion that this causes this. I mean, everything's in balance. Like you can have too much water, you can have too much bread,
Yeah.
you can die from too much water, right? So it's just about realizing that relationship with the food that you've created and starting to see the thought process around that food and starting to see the paranoia around that food as well.
Yeah.
And once you start to see that program, then you can start to change the program.
It's all about identifying those programs
acknowledging
first.
that it's there in the first place. And one of the things too is there's a text that says the power in life and death lie in the tongue, and those who eat its fruit will use it wisely. And so it comes down to the words, the thoughts, the words that we speak when we say like my disease or this thing, like we name it, we give more existence to it. Where you were saying it's just a sensation. It's just a sensation in the body, and it's coming into your awareness, and it's trying to keep your attention on your body, and your job is to divert your attention to your psychological emotion. That's the basis of what mind body medicine really is.
Mind body medicine. It's on the rise.
It is. Starting my mission is to create a world movement, a shift in consciousness that it's not just like this thing that, our thoughts create things and they change things. Like, no, we absolutely take on the belief and the notion that my thoughts can create physical symptoms in my body and consistently have those thoughts and those words spoken or reiterated create long-term dis-ease if I allow and choose it. That's what when we start to take that literally as a society, like every single thing that we think and speak creates our outcome.
Something that I got caught up in for a while was the whole affirmation thing. Like affirmations are great, but like saying it and saying it and saying it can only do so much if you don't actually believe what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah. But then you're blocked. Like you have a roadblock there that you have to do like deeper work essentially.
Yeah, the affirmations is interesting you bring that up because it's almost you can do affirmations till the cows come home, but until you bring the unconscious to the conscious, then nothing's going to change. You have to bring it to the surface first, and then you're able to be aware of it, and then you can change it.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of times affirmations people do for a long time, and then they work for a bit and they stop. Whereas if you start to address why you're doing that affirmation to begin with, you start to realize the feeling that you're avoiding by doing the affirmation.
It's a lot of emotional work that we're talking about here.
Yeah, that's pretty deep.
You gotta do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
But the payoff, the
payoff.
Look how healthy he is now.
The payoff is that you get your life back. I thought I would be having surgery and never being able to be active or fit again in my entire life. Not the case, and it's just become quite apparent that doctors and other people in the professional industries, they're not looking for cures. Because they're in the business of treating, and it's not their fault. It's just how the system is set up to create customers instead of people who get their lives back.
Yeah. So much good stuff. Any final questions or final words before we sign out?
Any questions?
Hello, beautiful people. Thank you for joining. Wave. Cool. Any final words?
Final words. Yes. I'd have to say that if you are going through these things, know that this is bringing you to a different spiritual place. You know, it's evolving you on so many levels, and it's more than just about healing your autoimmune or your pain or the celiac or anything. It's about showing you a better way to live, a better way to acknowledge yourself, and it's a journey back to self-love. So just know that these things, again, it's so important that they're happening for you, not to you. This isn't something that is like trying to take you down, where we're told autoimmune diseases is literally our immune system is attacking our body. That's what we're told. So that in itself, knowing that this is happening to you, that's what served me the most, is understanding that this is actually coming from a place of, we all have a divine intelligence inside of us that knows exactly what we need and knows how to heal our body. We just have to get out of the way. That's my final words.
Yay. Well, thank you so much, Jeff,
Yeah,
for
thank
joining.
you.
Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah.
First episode of Soulminded.
Soulminded.
Working title.
Yeah.
I will repost this video. I will link out to all of Jeff's links, his website, his YouTube channel. And if you have any follow-up questions or you want to reach out to him, know that those links will be available. I'll put it in my bio as well under Mind Body Healer for all of his links. And if you like Soulminded, you want to see more of this, let me know, because it was fun.
Yeah.
And we had a good time, and
awesome.
we got to share some soul-minded thoughts.
Soulminded.
And I'm potentially doing some more sessions with Jeff, so I will keep you dialed in on my celiac remission, road to recovery here. And I'm excited to dig in more to some of that emotional garbage that's stuck in me.
Yeah.
I want to pull it out.
Get it out of there.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you
Throw it in
guys
the basura.
so much for joining. My name is Claire. This is Jeff. Final send-off. Thanks for being here.